being buried alive for 7 days. What was going through your head during that time?
Because I was famished, mate. I hadn't eaten for 7 days. It was very humbling. You are forced to recognise that you're kind of equally powerful and totally not at the same time.
Russ has done lots of other crazy stunts. On one occasion, he's also been buried alive for a week with nothing but water to keep him going. And I am delighted to say that Russ joins me now. Fantastic, with news of your next crazy challenge. How are you?
I'm good, how are you doing?
Apart from absolutely certifiably insane. I mean, so you are Britain's hardest geezer.
The world's hardest geezer, actually.
The world's sorry.
I mean, you did another challenge, which was the fastest marathon ever whilst pulling a car.
Yeah.
So just let me repeat that so that one sink in for you, okay? This guy did a marathon whilst pulling a car.
Your next mission is
Tasty one.
the biggest one.
So I'm going to run the entire length of Africa from the most northern point to the most southern point.
What is it about people that they just want to push the limits and do things that no one else has done before?
It's deeply ingrained into the psyche of being a human being. And I look down the lineage or the ancestry of all of our people, man. We're like some of the first generations ever that didn't have to go and fight the bloodiest war of our lives in as soon as we hit prime age, you know. If I was living in a different time, I'd have been rolling around with a sword on a horse, trying to slash people's necks off. But the year's 2023, so I'll run the length of Africa instead. It's either run Africa or die trying.
You don't have any hidden talents that I should put in there?
No, I don't think so.
He's done it all, and he's a ginger.
Yeah. I mean, that is in itself.
Dude, I get teased so much online for my ears.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
The internet's brutal, man.
Yeah. Do you ever get comments? Not really.
Not really anymore, to be fair. I think it's one of them where, because I've grown a beard, like a big old ginger beard, you know, people know that I've embraced the ginger life. Do you know what I mean? So I'm not really insecure about it. I actually like being ginger. When you're a kid, you get the comments, but I've heard it all before, man. It's just like, whatever.
Yeah. And does it affect you with the sun?
Well, yeah. I mean, there is the fact that my skin is like white as.
Yeah, because you must spend a lot of time in the sun doing these challenges.
Yeah. I mean, I do often get warned about an impending skin cancer for me in later life. But I just, that sounds like a future problem, mate.
Yeah.
So I'll chuck some Facts 50 on for Africa.
Yeah, maybe a few layers.
Yeah.
Cool, let's get into it. What's up, everyone, and welcome to the Wide Awake podcast. My name is Joshua Rubin, and I'm your host.
Are you ready?
Today, my guest is Russ Cook. He is an endurance athlete that has completed some pretty insane challenges. Some of those challenges are being buried alive for 7 days. He also holds the record for the fastest marathon ever while pulling a car. That's normal. And he's also the first person to ever to run from Asia to London, which equates to 71 marathons in 66 days. That's quite an impressive list of accomplishments.
Cheers, mate. Yeah, been hard at work for the last few years.
So welcome to the studio. I mean,
Cheers, man. Thanks for having me on.
So how long have you been in Cape Town for? You said about a month.
Yeah, been here for about a month now. Yeah, getting that last bit of training in for the big adventure.
And what is the big adventure? Just briefly, we'll get into it later.
Yeah. Well, mission statement is first person to run the full length of Africa, most southern point of Africa to most northern point of Africa. 360 marathons, 240 days, about 16,000 kilometers. So yeah, that's
360 marathons.
Yeah.
In 240 days.
Yeah.
That is,
Tasty.
I mean, that is wild. I mean, before we get into any of that, I just want to kind of get to know you a bit better.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're from the UK, right?
Yeah, big up.
Where in the UK are you from?
So I'm from a town on the south coast called Worthing, which most people will never have heard of, but they might have heard of Brighton, which is right next to it.
Yeah, I've heard of Brighton.
Yeah. We're Brighton chasing down top 4 in the Premier League right now, so that's where people know I'm from. Yeah.
And what were you like as a kid? I'm assuming you're probably a bit of a wild one, eh?
Do you know what? I'd say I was quite a normal kid, really. I mean, maybe a little bit mischievous in some teenage years, but nothing too crazy, especially to compare some of the guests that you've got on that. My adventurous years didn't come until a little bit later on in life, really.
Okay. And I mean, were you a good athlete when you were younger?
Mate, nothing special. I was decent, captain of the high school footy team, and I did a bit of cross country, but I wasn't setting the world alight by any means. But yeah, mate, it wasn't really until I was about 19 or 20 where I started properly running. Really.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I was reading up about you.
Yeah.
And one of the things I saw is that you started doing these challenges to get yourself out of a bad place in life. I mean, what were you going through at the time that you needed to do something like this to get you out of that place?
Well, like I'm always a little bit cautious of selling too much of a sob story here, because it's not like I was, there's a lot of people that had way worse upbringings than I did. I actually, all things considered, my parents did a great job. But when I was 17, I was having I'd had a few challenging years leading up to it, and I ended up quite isolated. At 17, I was living in a flat by myself, still in full time at school, and I was working like 5 different jobs, like cleaning toilets and all the rest of it, to try and keep my head above water. And it was quite overwhelming at the time, really, but it led me down some paths that weren't ideal. So got heavily into gambling, which I haven't talked about too much publicly, but yeah, mate, lost fucking basically every penny I own continuously gambling over the stretch of a couple of years there, and relied on things. Basically, my existence was so miserable that I just relied on external things for happiness, which, as most of us know, is never a good situation.
Yeah.
And then that kind of rut stuck with me for about 3 years. I was overweight, miserable, angry at the world, and kind of hit rock bottom. Unusually, I was in a nightclub in Brighton, and it was about 3 a.m. and I just kind of looked around and had this mad realization, like, what am I doing with my life right now? Like, something needs to change. And I decided, for whatever reason, that I was going to run home. Like, I was on the spot there and then. I was running home. It was about 12 miles. It took me hours. I had to have a couple power naps on the pavement on the way. But I made it home, and then my mate texted me in the following few days going like, I want you to come and run this half marathon race with me. Like, we'll do some training, all the rest of it. And on a whim, I just kind of decided, like, fuck it. I ain't really got much else going for me at this point. So I'll do your half marathon, mate. And it was that kind of process of overcoming, a half marathon, and then we went and did the full marathon a few weeks later, overcoming something that I didn't really conceive that I would actually be able to do. Like, at the start, I was like, that's wild. But, by step, putting these things in place and applying myself, and then getting the result at the end where it's like, well, I did something that I never actually, I didn't think I was going to be able to do this, but I did it. And that process taught me a lot about discipline, being motivated, self-responsibility, accountability, and I just tried to start applying that to other areas of my life. Obviously, it's a slow process, but through that, I saved up some money for the first time in my whole life, really, and then decided to quit all the jobs that I hated doing that were sucking away at my soul, and went, we're going traveling all the way around the world, and that was kind of the start of the whole, madness. Because a few months after that, I decided I was going to run home from Asia.
Yeah, I think I wonder what it is about sports that can get you out of such a bad place, or just being active, because it's something that I've started doing recently.
Yeah.
I've never been an athlete. I've never really worked out much. And I'm doing well in life, but there's something I just feel like it's just missing out of my life.
Yeah.
Another day I was just like, fuck it, I'm going to go sign up for the gym. And obviously that can't fix all your problems, but it's definitely a step to being healthier. And when you feel good, like your physical feels good, mentally, it just makes sense that you'll feel better as well.
Of course, man. I kind of think, you know, like, you know, I'm hesitant to say that running or exercise is the solution to everyone's problems, because it's not. It's more complicated than that. But what you know, running or fitness and exercise can be is the spark for a positive spiral. And if you're in like a little bit of a rut, then sometimes it just takes, you know, just a little bit of to change.
Something to get out of your comfort zone. Yeah,
exactly.
Did you look up to anyone before you started this journey? Was there any athletes that you looked at and be like, I want to be like them?
What, before I started the first one?
Yeah.
There, I guess, you know, there'd been stories that I'd heard and listened to and thought that like that was an inspiring story. You know, like the obvious ones is like David Goggins.
Yeah, I was talking to my dad about him earlier.
Yeah. But you know, I actually look at even people like David Blaine.
I was telling him about it earlier as well. Yeah.
And I think that's, you know, what I like about David Blaine is he takes a concept that seems impossible and makes it possible. Like, however he does it, we don't know, obviously, but I really appreciate that profile of person, you know, just out here doing impossible things.
Did you see he did a challenge, I think it was 7 days underwater.
Yeah, I don't know if I've seen that. He did Buried Alive. That's where I got the inspiration for doing Buried Alive.
He was in this tank
Yeah.
filled with water, and I think he just had a tube in his mouth.
Yeah.
I think it was roughly 7 days that he stayed underwater for, completely submerged, just breathing through a tube.
Yeah, that's
and
wild.
then at the end of it, he tried to break the record for the longest breath hold, and almost died doing it.
Wow.
I mean, if you watch the video, you see his body like convulsing, and his organs start like pushing out of the sides of him. Like, it looks pretty gnarly.
That's some real like admirable self-control. That, you know.
Yeah.
Really impressive stuff.
Yeah, that's the next level. And I mean, there's also people like Wim Hof. It's so funny. You know Wim Hof?
Yeah.
He's done the one of the longest ice baths in the world. He was in an ice bath for an hour and 44 minutes, right?
Yeah, that's wild.
And I said to my friend, because I wanted to do a challenge, you know?
Yeah.
And especially after hearing your story, I was like, you know, I really want to go and do something, but I don't want to, you know, an ice bath is like, you just have to sit in the bath.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You don't have to move.
Yeah.
So I was like, I really want to try that out. So today I was going to get 2 ice baths and we're going to do the interview in ice baths. But I thought it might not be a great idea.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about some of your challenges, right?
Yeah, let's do it.
So, Buried Alive.
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about that. How did that come to be?
Well, you know, like I said, I saw David Blaine. It was like the first big thing David Blaine had done. And obviously I admire the guy, and I thought I would love to see what that experience is like, you know. And I think, you know, something I found there, that it was a lot of people, when you first talk to them about being buried alive, they're like, what on earth would you do? Like, why on earth would you do that? And they're thinking, you're going to go insane. You're going to lose, like, they're like, the claustrophobia is going to bug you out, like all the rest of it. But it actually turned out to be a really eye-opening, beautiful experience, to be honest. Like, there was a lot of positives that came out of that situation.
That's what I actually wanted to ask you about as well, because obviously the physical aspect of it's probably quite challenging, being confined,
100%.
not having the luxuries that you used to. But mentally, I feel like when I was thinking about that challenge, I was thinking about me going to bed at night.
Yeah.
And how when I go to bed and I switch off the TV and everything, and there's no distractions, you just hear all the voices in your head.
Yeah.
What was going through your head during that time? Because you must have been contemplating a lot.
Yeah, mate. I mean, I am a thinker, so I honestly did not have many problems thinking for a week straight, which might sound bizarre to some people, but I just thought about a lot of different things. I think, you know, what was so beautiful about it is that because I was famished, mate, I hadn't eaten for 7 days, it was very humbling, because you are forced to recognise that you're kind of equally powerful and totally not at the same time. Like, and that kind of put me in a position where I felt kind of stripped back from, like, you know, this like sense of self-importance that we carry around. Like, I'm terrible for it, you know, ego, all the rest of it, you know, and it kind of gave me a sense of strip back from that, and
Humbled you a bit.
yeah, humbled me enough to think about what was actually important in my life, and what did I want to do with my life? What did I want my legacy to be? Did I want to have a legacy? All of these big questions. Why would I want to? What are my motivations? You know, like trying to take a deep dive into all of these big questions. You know, why am I here? You know, they're huge questions to answer. I spent a week there and I still didn't answer barely any of them because it's just such massive, complex questions. But you know, one of the major takeaways that I had from that whole experience is that, like, I don't want to just be doing challenges for the sake of the
challenge,
the circus of it. You
Yeah.
know? And I want to attach a deeper meaning to all of these things, which is why I started heavily working with the charity that I work with called the Running Charity, and all these things, and you know, it just gave me a bit more of a North Star to the point of this all. You know,
Yeah.
like what are we trying to do here, Russ? You know?
Often when I do things, like I set up some sort of goal or some sort of challenge for myself,
Yeah.
I also go, what is the point of it?
Yeah.
You know? And at the beginning, you kind of think this is going to be awesome. You get halfway through, you met with some challenges and obstacles, and you're just like, why am I doing this?
Yeah,
Does
yeah.
anyone give a shit?
Yeah.
But like you say, if you have a goal, like for you, it's to raise money
Yeah.
and bring recognition to charities, you know, it makes it a lot more worth it
Yeah.
than just doing it for the sake of doing it.
100%.
But what was the setup for that? I mean, so you had the idea.
Yeah.
Were you buried underground?
Well, so there's a bit of a little backstory to this. So the first time I tried to do it, it failed after about 30 hours. Basically, we did it in this woman off Instagram's back garden, dug a hole in her garden, massive hole, put a box in there, you know, good to go, buried under the ground, under the mud. And then it just started raining, torrential rain for like the entire time. And because we were in clay, it started getting very heavy, and it started encroaching into the box. So the box was like collapsing in on itself. And I was like, oh, this ain't ideal, but fuck it, we'll just wait it out. But then what happened is the box started filling up with water. And because we had loads of electrical stuff in there and that, it was just like this. And we were about 30 hours in. I was like, I've still got 138 hours to go. This is just not going to work. Take the L, like lack of preparation, my bad. We'll try and figure this out again. But the problem is I spent basically every penny I had trying to do that. So I couldn't really do anything about it for a few more months. And then I was sat there with my flatmate at the time, and we were like discussing how we're going to get buried alive on the go again. And we were like, look, mate, let's just take the variables out of it. I don't want to fail this challenge because of weather conditions. If I fail it, I want to fail it because my mind couldn't hack it, or you know, one of these other reasons. So we cleared out one of the rooms in the flat, went down Wicks, which is like a garden centre shop in the UK, bought about £1,000 worth of mud, filled up the whole room with mud, but put a coffin in the bottom, and then just in a coffin with a bunch of tubes coming up in the room.
Yeah.
So I was inside in the end, which, you know, some people are like, oh, he wasn't really very alive, but, you know.
That's buried alive.
But yeah, the game's the game, mate. I did it the best I could with the tools and resources I had at the time. You know?
Yeah. And was it in an actual coffin?
Yes.
Did that get you like thinking about death? And I'm sure. Oh,
Well, yeah. Not too much, to be fair. I kind of just detached myself from the fact that it was a coffin. I think the main problem was it was quite like uncomfortable
yeah.
to lie in. Really, it's a bit touch tight.
And was that a challenge just for the challenge, or was that attached to an organization, or were you raising money for that as well?
No, so that was just a challenge for the challenge. You know, that was just my inquisitive mind wanted to see what it was like to be buried alive for a week. So yeah, that was just that.
And did you have people around you at all times, or
No. I had a live stream, so if I died mid live stream, maybe someone would have seen it. Like, let's go and help him.
And then, I mean, you did another challenge, which was the fastest marathon ever whilst pulling a car.
Yeah.
Where did that idea come from?
Well, I just finished the run home from Asia to London, and I was like, that was great, but I want to try and do something a little bit different, you know? Like, I don't want to do purely running. So I was like, what could I do that I think, what is out there that I think I could beat? And I saw a guy called Ross Edgley, who's, I don't know if you've heard of him.
Also a British guy, yeah. He swam around the UK.
He's done loads of mad shit. He's a tough guy. And he pulled a car for a marathon. And I looked at him doing it, and I was like, the geezer's so wham, right? He's massive. He's just like jacked. Yeah, he's huge. And I was like, that just can't be efficient for pulling a car in my thought process. Because everyone thinks pulling a car, you got to be really strong. But when you're pulling a car for a marathon, it's not so much about strength. It's more about the endurance of your body. And if you've got big muscles and you weigh a lot, then you're having to provide all of those muscles with energy for an extensive period of time. So I was like, I'm a bit skinnier, a little bit leaner. I reckon I could beat that if I did a bit of strength work. So that's what I did, basically.
How big was the car? And how long is a marathon, by the way?
So
it's like 42K.
42.2K, yeah.
Okay. It's like 19 miles.
26 miles.
26 miles.
26.2 miles, yeah. The car was a Suzuki, I can't remember what, it was a 1997 Suzuki. My mate bought it for like 25 quid or something. I can't remember how much he weighed. I think 750, 800 kilos. So, mate, I mean, it was a car, but it was a small car.
It was a small car. What did Ross Edgley do it with? The similar kind of car? Or?
He did it with a Mini Cooper.
Yeah.
I believe, yeah.
But how do you train for that? Did you actually do training with the car?
Yeah. So I trained with a heavier car and deflated the tyres to make it harder. I did a lot of strength work in the gym, lots of leg days coming at me thick and fast. But then I carried on with running mileage as well. So there was a lot going on there, to be fair, training wise.
And can you walk me through the day of the actual marathon?
Yeah.
You know, the marathon where you pulled the car behind you, attached to you. I mean, from the time you woke up to the time you went to bed, like, what was that whole process like? What did it look like?
So we started early doors, mate. I think I woke up maybe 1 a.m. and we were going to start at 2. So we went down to Worthing Promenade, which is the seafront. It's a totally flat stretch of about 1 kilometre, which is ideal in the sense that going uphill makes it so much harder to pull a car. But the only bad side is that you had to turn back and forth a lot, which is kind of the hardest part, is getting the thing going. So we had to turn back on ourselves about 42 times. But yeah, anyway, I woke up at about 1, went down to the promenade with a few of the boys, 2 a.m. and just thought, right, let's go out hard and fast. I was anticipating it would take me about 18 hours. I was like, let's go out hard and fast and see how long I can hold the pace for, basically. And I was probably about 3 hours in before I realised, I was like, I'm smashing this. I was like, probably, 20, I think I was about 20K in within about 4 hours. Jeez. And I was like, feeling good. And I was like, it was just one of them perfect days. They don't come around too often, but like everything aligns perfectly. Whereas the body just feels 10-10. The mindset's on point, fierce, ferocious. Nothing can stop me. Weather was perfect. It was just a great day.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And what's the usual time? So like for someone average, say someone with very little training, how long would it take them to do like a proper marathon? So
I think the average time for a UK marathon finisher is, I think it's 4 hours 24. So that's the average. For if you're doing your first marathon and you didn't train for it, then you could be looking, depending on what your background is, you could probably be looking at 5.5 to 8 hours.
But you basically did it in just over double the time.
So yeah, I did
with a full-on car.
Yeah.
How? I just don't understand how that's possible. Like,
yeah, mate. I mean, it's one of them, when you've got the momentum going, it's actually just not as hard as it sounds. But I probably should be saying that.
Because people are going to go break it now.
Yeah.
Maybe I should go pull out a Mini Cooper and start running around the block.
Yeah, mate. It is a momentum thing, you know. Like, it's hard to get the car going, and it's hard if you've got any kind of gradient. But once you've got the momentum, I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still hard, but like, you can keep it rolling.
It's doable though.
Yeah.
And what was? I mean, I assume that challenge was probably quite easy to set up. That was probably one of the easier ones to set up, right? You just had to get a car and pull it.
Yeah, the only problem I had was finding a location and like the council, the Worthing Council were being long about giving me permission to do it here and there, but we sorted it out in the end. So yeah, that wasn't actually that hard.
And
logistics wise.
I'm assuming the hardest thing you've ever done so far is probably the running from Asia to London.
Yeah.
Which was 71 marathons, so 42 Ks.
Yeah.
In 66 days. 42 Ks every day for 66 days.
Yeah, it was actually an average of like 46 in the end. Yeah. Yeah, that was tough, man. I think, what made that tough was, I mean, obviously the mileage and the running was a part of it, but I think the fact that I was alone and I was camping every night with a hammock and everything I had was in a bag. Literally that bag there that I've got with me is the bag I had.
So no one was traveling with you?
No.
So you had to carry your stuff
everything
while running?
Yeah.
How much did everything weigh, do you think?
Mate, I went super lightweight. I had about, including 2 litres of water, which weighs 2 kilos already, I probably had 4 kilos of stuff.
And why did you decide to go from Asia to London?
Well, when I started looking things up, it had never been done before, so that I thought that was cool. Then there was obviously I was restrained by budget, didn't have any money really. I actually went and did a medical trial where they give you a load of drugs to test to pay for this, so I had like no cash, so that was a factor. And then like the seasons were a factor, and what is actually possible when you're going by yourself was a factor. So like Europe was a good destination because I know it well. It's pretty safe. There's not any like extreme weather conditions or climates or parts of land where it's populated. It's so densely populated that like I found at least something, like even if it was just a petrol station, I found something that I could buy food from every day. All of these things were quite important. There's no like lions trying to kill me, which is quite nice. So,
that's something to worry about for your next adventure.
Yeah. So that's kind of like what all led into deciding that I was going to do that one.
And there's something that always stumps me, right?
Yeah.
With people, I don't know what it is. Why do you think people have this desire to do stuff that is this extreme, right?
Yeah.
Because I have the same desire. I'm also I want to do something that no one's ever done before. I want to go there.
Speaks to you, doesn't it?
I don't know what do you think it is about people after doing a few of these challenges yourself, right? What is it about people that they just want to push the limits and do things that no one else has done before?
I think, I've spent a bit of time thinking about this. I think it's so natural, man. It's deeply ingrained into the psyche of being a human being. And I look down the lineage or the ancestry of all of our people, man. We're like some of the first generations ever that didn't have to go and fight the bloodiest war of our lives in as soon as we hit prime age, Like that's you I just don't think you can underestimate how deeply ingrained that is in all of us. And if I was living in a different time, I'd have been rolling around with a sword on a horse trying to slash people's necks off. But I'm the year's 2023, so I'll run the length of Africa instead. You can't take away that, that sense of like, I need to do like that burn, like the rage.
The adventure.
It's the rage that like needs quenching. And I just feel like it's quite a natural thing, to be honest.
And I mean, I'm sure you saw some interesting things along this journey, right?
Yeah.
From Asia to London. I mean, what was the coolest thing you saw on that trip?
The coolest thing I saw? God, mate, do you know what? I have to really, really think about it now. I think the people were the coolest things that made that trip what it was, because because I was by myself, I was in a situation where I was more vulnerable, you know, and I really had to rely on the goodwill of a bunch of strangers that very often didn't understand a word I was saying. And there's so many stories of people just like really just going out of their way to help me. You know, there was a guy I met in Turkey. I rolled up to this little tiny village about 10 p.m. I was absolutely knackered. It'd been a really tough day, and there was like a little kind of like a pub, not really a pub, but there was people drinking in this place. And I walked in there, tried to like explain to this guy what I was doing, and he's like, mate, come and, I mean, we're doing this on Google Translate, but he's like, come and stay in my house, you know, and he's got young kids, he's got a wife, but he's bringing back a random geezer from England to his home for stay the night. He's like offering me shower, food, charge my phone, all the rest of it, you know. And I just think that it's so heartwarming when stuff like that happens, because it's like he has absolutely no reason to help me. He has nothing to gain from me. You know, I have nothing to give him. I can't offer him a thing, but he's just going to do it anyway. And that's like such a beautiful part of the human spirit. And, you know, I experienced that kind of thing multiple times on that adventure. And, you know, it really stuck with me now.
I've spoke to a few people that do, you know, extreme adventures.
Yeah.
And the guy that I was telling you about earlier before the podcast, Davey Duplessis, said the same thing, where when he got shot in the middle of the Amazon trying to paddle the length of the river.
Yeah, that's what's so wild.
I mean, he made it, he got away from his attackers.
Yeah.
And collapsed in the middle of the forest. People eventually found him, you know, people that are native to the Amazon.
Yeah.
And they helped him. And basically, he was so far away from civilization that they had to pass him from like community to community.
Yeah.
And he was also saying like, I have nothing to give these people. They're using their last bits of fuel because they were like to get him to where he needed to be, medication and like food and stuff. And it was just like, they didn't need to do any of that, but they did it, you know?
It's overwhelming, man, when things like that happen.
I feel like when you put yourself out there and do something that's out of the ordinary or extraordinary, I think people are more receptive, you know? Because if they see you out of your comfort zone, it pushes them to get out of their comfort zone as well.
Yeah, Matt, I think there's a lot to be said for that, actually, to be fair. Yeah.
And I mean, so now your next mission is...
Yeah, tasty one.
The biggest one.
Yeah.
I mean, so this is the aim, right? This is what you sent me. So you said you want to be the first person to run the full length of Africa.
Yeah.
Not cycle, not drive. Like, I would be tired driving, bro. I swear, I get tired driving from town to here. Like, So you're the first person to run the full length of Africa, which will be 360 marathons in 240 days.
Yeah.
16 different countries that you'll be crossing. 15,000 kilometers total distance. Americans figure out what the miles are. I'm sick of it.
It's about 9.5, 10,000 miles.
And you want to raise £1 million for charity.
That's the goal.
So where did this idea come from?
This one's been in the locker for a while. I probably thought about it shortly after I finished the Ages London run. You know, get the old Google Earth up, start having a look at the world, going, what could I run across? And Africa has always intrigued me. And because it's not been done by anyone, like the full length of it, makes it even more interesting to me. For me, it was more of a process of figuring out how I'm going to get the resources to be able to do this. Because I ain't got money, I'm not from money, and this is an expensive mission to pull it off. So,
well, how have you been raising funds?
Well,
because I assume it's cost you a fortune.
Yeah. So I was chatting to people about this mission, trying to figure out how I can get it done. And I ended up getting linked up with a mate of a mate who had done very well in the crypto space over the last couple of years. And I said, had to set up a meeting with him, said, look, mate, this is what I'm trying to do. I think I need 50 grand to get this thing going.
£50,000.
£50,000, which is a lot of money.
It's quite a lot of money, yeah.
Significant amount of money. But I mean, also to compare other missions like this, drop in the ocean. So yeah, 50 grand. Chatted to him about it, told him about, you know, the reason behind why I want to do it, what I think the impact could be, what we're hoping to do with like filming a documentary and a YouTube series and all the rest of it. And he just bought in and he was like, mate, you know, it sounds reckless. It's probably not like an unbelievably wise business move, but I'll back you. So here you go. Like, yeah, go and do it. So we set up some business terms and that was the money that basically started the mission rolling. But you know, we've burned through a lot of that money now, unfortunately, because things haven't gone exactly to plan how we thought they would at the start. Like these things never do. But you know, we've also got you know, so a couple sponsors that are helping us out as well, which is you know, crucial. Otherwise, it wouldn't happen, mate. But you know, as someone that is like, I am the endurance athlete, so it's so difficult to try and switch into the mode of like I've been a huge learning journey for me over the last year, figuring out like how I'm going to try and chat to sponsors. What do they want from us? What can we deliver for them? How am I going to communicate in that to them in a way that's going to make them see the potential of the mission? It's such a process, man. It's really difficult, but you know, it's been a lot of learning for me over the last year about a lot of different things. But the business side of things is a big one.
Yeah, and I think it takes away from, it's like what we were saying with my podcast. When I travel to America, it's like you spend so much time traveling, setting things up, and at the end of the day, you're the athlete.
Yeah,
all you want to do is focus on being an athlete and completing the challenge, you know. But it's never like that. You have to worry about all the logistics. How am I going to fund this?
Yeah.
You know, and it sometimes takes the fun out of it. So, I mean, if I could say anything, it's just now that you're here and most of the stuff is done, just get locked in. I'm sure you don't need me to tell you that. I'm sure you look like you're the locked in kind of guy.
100%, mate. I think that's also like, that's a good note though for anyone that like maybe has aspirations of getting into this kind of space. It's like, you've got to, you know, just being the athlete is a luxury in a situation like, and you have to jump through a fair share of hurdles to get to the point where you have the luxury of just being the athlete that concentrates on being an athlete. So, you know, if you want it hard enough, then you've got to fucking make it happen no matter what, you know? Yeah,
100%. And I mean, you're not doing this one alone, I'm assuming. I think people are following you, right?
I've got a team. I've got a team with cameras and stuff. So we're going to be making loads of content, YouTube series, documentary at the end. You know, even the little TikToks and the Instagram reels.
What are you going to do, like a dance move in the middle of the desert?
Hips might be a bit stiff, mate, but I'll try and get something together for you. Yeah,
that'd be funny.
So we've got a team following in a van. So I've got a van to sleep in at night, which is, you know,
huge.
Good. Yeah, don't have to sleep in a hammock trying to fight off lions every day of my life for the next.
I'd be more worried about the mosquitoes, bro.
Yeah.
You know, mosquitoes kill more people than anything else on the planet.
I've heard all about the mosquitoes, mate. Well, even I know they're probably not even that bad here, but even here I'm getting bit up a little bit.
Yeah, they're not that bad in Cape Town. Depends where you go, but there's certain parts of Africa where it's like it's the biggest killer, you know.
Yeah.
And I mean, for this, I'm assuming you just did a lot of running training.
Pretty much. Done a lot of running. I've done a decent amount of strength training as well because, you know, the body essentially is almost guaranteed to break down at some point over this next 8 months. Injuries are inevitable.
Over 8 months, you said?
Yeah. Almost guaranteed. So I've done as much strength training as possible to try and mitigate the chances of like, you know, the legs breaking down or like those injuries. So lots of mileage, lots of strength work. And, you know, we're just going in with the mindset of like, this is going to be the hardest thing I've ever done in my life. But unless I'm dead, I'm carrying on.
And so is it just like a camera crew that's going to be following you around, or do you have family and friends here with you as well?
The budget doesn't extend to that, unfortunately. So it's skeleton team, mate. We've literally got 2, maybe 3 camera people coming, and they're just in the van with me. So, yeah. It's
gonna be an adventure.
It's back to basics,
And have you thought of any of the challenges you might face along the way and the dangers?
Mate, there's so many different potential challenges. I think some of the obvious ones are like borders. There's 16 different countries we've got to go to. There's 12 different visas we need for those 16 countries. And getting through those borders is not going to be an easy task. There's obviously the geographical challenges. Congo rainforest, notoriously quite dicey. Sahara Desert, biggest hot desert in the world. Namibian desert. We've got Atlas Mountain Range in the north. It doesn't actually get easy at any point, to be honest.
It's just hard all the way through.
Yeah, and then like you said, the mosquitoes, disease is a huge one. Probably one that goes under the radar, but that's probably the biggest chance of me dying is from a disease that I catch or a mosquito or something like that. There's obviously the big apex predators lurking out there.
So something interesting about that is the guy Davey Duplessis that I spoke to. I'm pretty sure it was him that told me. I think he cycled around Africa as well, right?
Yeah.
He cycled around it, and I think one of the things he said to me was he saw a lot less wildlife than he thought he would.
Yeah.
He saw almost
that doesn't surprise me.
Nothing.
Yeah.
Because it's been decimated so much, and the wildlife gets pushed into reserves.
Yeah.
So that was something that really surprised me because I thought he would have seen a lot more than he said he did. So I think he'll be okay with the lions anyway.
I reckon we will, but it's fun to talk about them, right?
Yeah. There is the chance.
Yeah, exactly.
There is the chance. What happens if you ran into a lion? You take it down. Just run.
Mate, it depends what part of me you answer that question. The ego side of me goes, look, boys, no problem. Left hook, bang, bang, bang. Get it in a rear naked choke. Off we go. To sleep, night. I'm running again.
Yeah.
The more sensible version of me goes, yeah, Russ, we're pretty fucked here, lad.
Yeah, you're pretty fucked here.
Pretty fucked. Where you cut it up.
So you're doing 360 marathons in 240 days.
Yep.
Say it's day 150.
Yeah.
You're in your car.
Yeah.
You're sleeping.
Yeah.
Your legs are burning.
Yeah.
You do not want to move.
Yeah.
But now you have to get up and run 1.5 marathons, basically.
Yeah.
What are you going to do?
Mate, I mean, what can you do in that situation? The trouble is, right, is the mindset for me will be my feelings do not matter. And in any other walk of life, it's quite a dangerous mindset to walk around with. But, if I cave to my feelings in that situation, then the job doesn't get done, essentially. So all of those negative feelings, all of those like, I'm sad, my legs hurt, I really don't want to do it, it is just a case in this scenario of being like, shut the fuck up, get on with it, mate. And it's that kind of ruthless energy that separates winning at the top level and not, unfortunately. It's brutal. It's a fucking brutal game. But I'm here to win. I'm not here to talk about my feelings.
Yeah.
That's what the mindset will be.
It's something that my friend always says to me because I've just started gymming.
Yeah.
And I'm super weak, right?
Yeah.
And he always says to me, he says, you're capable of so much more than you actually think you are.
Yeah.
When you think you're done, you've always got more, right? And I think that's what separates an athlete from a super endurance athlete.
Yeah.
Is the fact that they can just unlock that side of them that goes, I can do more and I will do more.
Yeah. Well, there's a difference between like the level of fucked where you just don't want to carry on and the level of fucked where like you're like physically incapable of moving, and it's just how far along the line do you want to get? And, when your why is strong enough and when you've sacrificed as much as I've sacrificed to get here, the thought of giving up, is inconceivable to me. And genuinely, if my lungs are still working and my legs are it's still possible for my legs to move forward in any capacity, then I will be going on. Death is either run Africa or die trying, pretty much.
Did you ever see the documentary 14 Peaks
I did, yeah.
with
yeah.
Nimsdai?
Yes. Yeah.
So I love what he said when I think they were climbing the mountain K2,
yeah.
and everyone wanted to turn back, and he was giving them more like a motivational speech. He was like, when you think you're fucked, you're only actually 40% fucked. You know, you'll figure it out. That was like the best line in that whole documentary. But I mean, the point of this, right, is to raise £1 million for charity.
Yes.
How are you planning on getting the word out there? I mean, I did see there was some big articles done already about it.
Yeah.
Were those, like, did you have to get in contact with those agencies to do the articles, or did they contact you?
No, they actually, almost all of them got in contact with me, to be fair. I'm not very good at reaching out to people. I reach out to you, but I don't really reach out to people. So I'm a bit of a introvert, recluse most of the time, to be honest. So yeah, mate, I mean, the game plan for that really is we're going to make the best content YouTube has ever seen. And we're going to put it out there, and hopefully we're going to try and engage as many people through that as well, because, you know, I believe this is going to be a great story. You know, the truth of the truth is I have no idea what's going to happen in the next 8 months. I know it's going to be absolutely
bonkers.
Yeah, that's all I can know. And if we can tell that story in as best a way as possible, then hopefully we can bring as many people on the journey as we can, and, you know, I make a difference in the world.
And are you going to try and raise money throughout the journey, or are you going to be producing content as you go, or at the end of it, you're going to produce all the content?
So we're going to be producing content on the go, and then making the documentary at the end.
Yeah, I think that's a lot better, because you want people to follow your journey, you know?
Yeah.
It's like, is he going to make it? Is he not going to make it? Is he going to get eaten by a fucking jackal today?
Yeah.
You know, Cape Cobra.
Yeah. I have had an encounter with a Cape Cobra as well.
Where, since you've been here?
Yeah.
They're scary, eh?
Yeah.
That thing will take you down.
Yeah. I was like, whoa.
Yeah, I've caught a few.
Really?
I always try to, because the snakes always end up in the roads around here.
Yeah.
So I always try to get them off the road. The other day I was driving home, and there was a snake like in the bus lane.
Yeah.
And I slammed my car like onto the side of the road, but it was like weird, so it was like dodgy.
Yeah.
And I like swerved in front of other cars, tried to run, and it got ran over before I got there.
Fuck.
Yeah. I love the snakes around here. But so I mean, this is a massive challenge, right?
Yeah.
What do you want to achieve by doing this? Obviously, you want to raise some money. What do you think this will do for you as well? Because I know you're very focused on the goal, which is to do it, right?
Yeah.
At the end of it, what do you want to feel?
God, that's a good question, mate. You know, what do I want to feel at the end? I don't know if I want to set too much of an expectation on what I want to feel, because it's going to be such a crazy journey that I don't really know how I'm going to feel. And you know, as long I'm just so fixated on getting it done.
Yeah.
That
you'll feel what you feel when you get there. Yeah.
Yeah. You know, like in terms of what it can do for me personally, like obviously I'm not blind to that, and I'd be lying if I said there was no motivating factors in that. It's not like I'm a fucking saint that's only motivated to do selfless things. It's I think people that say they are just lying. Do you know what I mean? But you know, I hope that you know, at the end, maybe it would be great if I can have a bit more freedom to do more adventures, take people on more adventures, and ultimately use this for a positive force with the charities that I work with. You know, I can't sit here and preach and say that I know all the answers, but hopefully this can move me in a direction where I get closer to that truth, you know?
And I feel like this is such a big adventure that you're about to go on, that I think the ones you've done already are insane, but I feel like this would really put you on the map then give you the freedom to not have to worry about all of the logistics maybe in the future.
That'd be nice.
Maybe build a team around you and just keep doing these amazing adventures.
That would be good. You know, I've got so many big ideas in the bank that, you know, if we can get in a position where there's a bit more resources behind us, then
Be
I
amazing.
believe I can pull a lot off.
And where can people follow the journey?
So I'm hardest geezer on all social medias. So yeah, just hardest geezer.
That's like the most
British
thing I've ever heard. Yeah.
By design as well.
Yeah. I'm the softest butt.
The softest, but what is butt? Is that a South African?
Butt is like brother.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you're the hardest geezer. I'm the softest butt.
Yeah.
The softest brother.
Yeah. Well, look, if I end up flopping this journey halfway through, then I'll have to change my name to the softest geezer.
Yeah, softest geezer. Amazing, man. Well, everyone go check them out. And I can't wait to follow this journey. Maybe throughout we can like
Have a link up somewhere.
we can like call in, get you to call in or
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
give us an
yeah.
update on how it's going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mate, sounds wicked. Thanks for having me on, man.
It's a
Really
pleasure.
Appreciate it.
And thank you all for watching this episode of the Wide Awake podcast. I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you all very soon. Cheers.